Hi everyone, Simon Keeling here. Thanks again for watching weatherweb.net. It is, when is it? Wednesday. That's the day it is. Wednesday the 30th of January. As always, the site's get free of charge by the adverts that you see around the screen here. It's you coming back, using the adverts, using the site. That's what keeps us free of charge. And of course, we've got all the charts on here. We've got the ECMWF, we've got the Canadian models, GFS, the UK Met Office models, just about everything you want. So fill your boots, take a look around, and let me know if there's any charts on there that you'd like to see, or any information that's not included at the moment. Okay, so got a windy day out there, and a brisk westerly wind blowing across the country. You won't be surprised to learn the jet stream is pretty close by. Here it is, look, just blowing through the country across the south, and what that's doing is, there it is, just blowing through here. What it's doing is it's just blowing in areas of low pressure off the Atlantic, and as I run through this sequence there, you'll notice it just stays across the country. Now, interestingly, by the time we're getting into Friday, we've got an area of low pressure transitions across the south, and just watch what happens. Briefly look, the jet stream pulls away down to the south. Guess what happens? Then the weather goes into a cooler state for a couple of days, but then the jet stream comes back in. Look, here it is, back into the country by Sunday, and it reintroduces milder air across all places. But what we need to watch for is for the transition of that jet stream meandering around and eventually buckling back southwards again as we get into the middle part of next week. And that's exactly what it's going to do. So it's this idea of cold weather coming back in the middle to the latter part of next week is building all the time. I think that's where we're going to go. Of course, we've got some way to get there yet. This is the total rainfall for the next week. You can see still it's western areas with 60 to 70 millimetres of rain across parts of Wales, northern and western Scotland, northern and western parts of Ireland. Again, still 60 70 millimetres of rain. That's almost up to 3 inches. But areas sheltered from those westerly winds, look, these blue colours here showing much less in the way of rainfall. Incidentally, most of this rainfall across the south of the country, across the southern half of England and Wales, is being caused by rain coming through on Friday, which looks like being a truly horrible day. Anyway, this is the position that we've got at the moment. We've got low pressure centred up here towards the northern parts of Scotland, and we've got a front clearing away towards the east during this morning. Now, what we're going to find is that low pressure still dominates things, but it clears away during the course of this afternoon. Then a weak ridge builds from the west, but during tomorrow, look, we find another front pushing its way eastwards, bringing outbreaks of rain to northern and western areas. Tomorrow's probably a colder day actually through Thursday, but that rain eventually tries to clear away towards the east, but we're still left with residual stuff here across southern Scotland and Northern Ireland. But it's this feature down here that's drawing all of our attention, because watch what happens to that. That's an area of low pressure that zips its way eastwards through the course of Friday. It brings some heavy rain across the southern half of the UK and the southern half of Ireland. Some real heavy rain, and also the risk of some strong winds in there as well. Now, the problem is that coming into the back of that, we've got cold air. So the question is, what happens to the rain? Because we could see temperatures of just 2 or 3 degrees through the Midlands, Wales and East Anglia, and put rain on top of that, of course, heavy rain as well. You get evaporative cooling taking place, lowers temperatures even more. So we could be looking at some sleet and snow, or rain turning to sleet and snow on the back edge of that system. At the moment, I think snow is confined to the hills, perhaps a little bit of wet stuff down at low levels, but it may be that as it clears away down to the southeast through the evening, it may be that kind of East Anglia into the eastern Midlands, parts of southeast England, gets a brief period of snow, which could lead to a dusting. Strong winds are another feature of Friday. Really strong winds as that system moves through, adding to it just being a dark, horrible, wet day. Cooler conditions coming down to Scotland, few wintry showers up there, and then for Saturday that sets us up into a northerly wind and cooler everywhere. Some snow showers though affecting eastern coasts. Now, it doesn't last very long though, because we get milder air moving back in from the Atlantic by Thursday. There it goes. You see the ice bars here coming back in from a westerly direction, taking clouds and some outbreaks of rain with them. And then what we find is staying mainly in the west on Monday, so relatively mild conditions, but cooler air is kind of going to try and leach in to Scotland and Northern Ireland, and what that will do is increasingly turn showers across Northern and Western Ireland and Western Scotland into snow, and some of those could be heavy at times. I think rain will clear away from the southeast, and then that cooler air just kind of just leaches its way down through the country, and you can see here that the GFS then wants to bring in another area of low pressure, take it southeastwards, bring in some rain turning increasing to sleet and snow, probably more in the form of showers and mainly affecting the east as we head in towards Wednesday of next week, and that really is the transition to the colder weather that looks as if it is then going to be kicking into the country. So that's what takes us up to the cooler spell of weather. Now, what's interesting to see is what happens to our ridge in the Atlantic, because you'll know that for several days I've been talking about this ridge building, and look, here it is. This is the ECMWF on the left, this is the GFS on the right, and this is the period from next Wednesday ending Saturday the 9th of February. So it's the anomalies of the 500 millibar flow, and just look at this ridge that builds out towards the west on both charts. But the critical factor here, the absolute critical factor, is these increased heights across the pole. Remember me telling you about this linkage back from the ridge going back to the pole? Well, look what happens. Here's our ridge pumping northwards. Here's the link starting to take place. If that gets in, then we go into cooler conditions, and I think it will. So I think what we've got to work on is, at the moment I'm going to go for a 7 to 10 day spell of colder weather from about the 7th of February. So that would take us through till about the 17th. Now, I'm going to show you a new chart here, okay? This is the MJO. Now, the MJO is the Madden-Julian oscillation. It's one of the oscillations that we use. It's climate indices that we can use to predict patterns of the weather, and it goes in differing phases, and whatever phase it's in gives you an indication as to how unstable the weather is. Now, it's good to use as an indication in certain weather conditions, but not all conditions. And what we've got here is the forecast, the seasonal ensemble forecast from the ECMWF model. Okay, and what we're looking at here is this line here. So this red that you can see here, these are the actuals. Okay, so this is kind of the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th of January in there, and it takes us up to the 28th. So this prediction was made on the 28th. Then each one of the black dots you can see along the solid green line here is the forecast. So that's the 29th, 30th, so on, so on, so on. And what I've done is here marked on certain days. So this is the 4th. This is the 9th, the 15th of Feb, 23rd of Feb, 3rd of March. And you can see how this kind of goes round a circle. Now, each of the phases are marked on here in black. So that's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and phase 5, phase 6, phase 7 here, and phase 8 is in here. So you can track which phase it goes through, and you can pick out and hopefully predict how long each phase is going to be lasting. Now, what's crucial here is that as we transition through these phases, it gives us an idea as to whether cool weather is going to be setting in and what the North Atlantic Oscillation does. And what's important is that about 5 days after you enter phase 3, you're into a strong NAO, positive NAO coming across the Atlantic. And what that does is it drives in the mild air off the Atlantic, and you see that we get into phase 3 about the 15th. So about 5 or 6 days after, takes us up to the 20th, 21st. And I think it's from then on in, as we get into phase 4 here. And I should say phase 4 is a real indicator of a strong westerly flow. So you can see it's taken us through phase 4 from about the 22nd, 23rd onwards. So it's this transition period around about the 20th that we get into this milder spell. And I think it's going to be during the 20th, somewhere about 20th, 21st, that we get into this mild westerly flow. So I think we can say the second part of February is going to go unsettled and wet and windy and mild, and probably that takes us into the early part of March. So at the moment my idea on dates is around the 7th. Okay, around the 7th we go into sort of cool to cold conditions. So I'm going to have a cool minus there, so kind of cool to cold conditions. Then I think that's going to take us in for about 10 days. I reckon it's going to be about the 17th. Okay, that we start to see a transition takes place, and it's going to be somewhere between the 17th and the 20th that we kind of flip between these cooler, milder conditions. It may take some time for temperatures to recover, but then I think what we find is around the 21st, 22nd we are into a westerly phase proper, and there we become warmer. Well, actually it's probably going to be mild, let's say mild, okay, and windy as well, and unsettled conditions coming through. So I think that's the way this is going to shape out into March. And what I think it will do is probably take us up to I think we could be in for this for quite some time, because the phase 4 is slowing down, so I think it's going to be kind of here around the 11th or 12th before we come out of it. Then we could go into a cooler spell for a short time, middle part of March, before I think we're going to go back into mild conditions at the end of March. But I did just want to introduce you to that chart, to the Madden-Julian oscillation, because I think we're going to be seeing more of that over the next few days and weeks. So I hope I haven't bored you there and kept you watching for too long, but it's just interesting, isn't it, to see these indices and to get used to use them. And you know what, it's only because of the technology that's become available that we can now start to use those. I know many of you sailors, your flyers and your farmers as well, and for the farmers amongst you, I know things are getting critical now as we get into the springtime period. So I think this idea of this milder air getting in proper after about the 20th, 21st, and I was talking about the 15th as being transition originally, but so this 20th, 21st period is probably quite important, although it will be going into more unsettled conditions. There'll be some flying around as well. For those of you who like flying, there will be some flying conditions to be found. I think probably the pick of the days looks like being Saturday, particularly Saturday afternoon this weekend. And for those of you who sail, should be some reasonable days around, particularly over the weekend. Probably Saturday again, away from eastern coasts, and probably Sunday across the south shouldn't be too bad either. So that continues me wittering on, really. But anyway, listen, thank you again for watching weatherweb.net. We're kept free of charge by the adverts you see around the screen and by you coming back and viewing the site. So thank you for watching. Please tell your friends about us. Don't forget to look around the site at the charts, and whatever happens, keep the sun shining. Bye for now.